Welcome back to the Church of the Promise. Today is the fourth week in a 7-week teaching series called Hard Sayings for Hard Times. We're taking a closer look at some of the hard sayings of Jesus. This week I had to ask myself, what was I thinking when I came up with the idea to preach a series on hard sayings for hard times? Why not happy sayings for hard times or hopeful sayings for hard times? That would have been easier, a lot more fun. Hard sayings for hard times? What a goofball. But I am finding that the hard sayings of Jesus we've been looking at over the past 3 weeks have been extremely relevant for the difficult times that we are finding ourselves trying to navigate. Today we're going to look at what Jesus had to say about anger and the danger, he said, unchecked or unresolved anger places us in. Heaven knows, and you and I know, that we are living in a season of unresolved anger, tension, and frustration that just bubble beneath the surface of our lives. It's like we're walking on a thin layer of ice, and the slightest offense will cause the ice to break, and the anger beneath the surface comes up and out. We see and feel displays of anger and frustration everywhere we turn. People are angry and frustrated, waiting for racial justice to be the norm. People are angry because they're asked to wear masks. And people who comply, wear the mask, are angry at the people who don't. People are angry and tired of living from paycheck to paycheck, waiting for the economy to shift and to work in favor for the families who live in poverty. Some people are angry because the social economic systems don't work for them, and they find themselves without a home, living on the streets. And other people are angry because the homeless man stands at the stop sign and holds up a cardboard sign asking for money. We get angry with the media for shoving stories down our throats, stories that are reported in a way that serves their own political agendas instead of the truth. We get angry at our politicians and the political system that seems to serve itself instead of the people. Tension, frustration, anger. It's eating at the soul of our social consciousness like an aggressive cancer. And then Jesus comes along and he says, anger will kill you. If you let anger go unchecked and unresolved, it will eat you alive and place you in the danger of judgment. Let's read what Jesus has to say about anger. It's in Matthew 5, verses 21 and 22. Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder. And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment.' But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raka,' is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, 'You fool,' will be in danger of the fire of hell. Hard saying. This is the first of 6 sayings where Jesus takes a law from his Jewish tradition and he tightens down the screws, moving the standard of judgment from an external behavior to an internal motive or attitude. You've heard it said to people long ago, but I say to you. Jesus does this 6 different times. 6 different items of the law, one right after another. He takes a hard saying and he makes it harder. The law, according to Jesus, is not about external behavior, but it's a matter of the spirit, a condition of the soul. Jesus is letting us know that acts of violence, murder, slander, insults, abuse, these external behaviors all begin with unresolved anger. Acts of violence have their roots embedded in a heart filled with war and anger. Now, I may be wrong, but I don't think Jesus is telling us you can't be angry. He knows that anger is a human emotion. He experienced the emotion himself. He flipped over tables when the money changers were taking advantage of the poor. He cursed the fig tree when it didn't produce fruit. He called out the religious leaders for their abuse of power, and he even got frustrated with his disciples because of their lack of faith. Jesus himself knew and felt the emotion of anger. But he didn't let his anger result in acts of violence. Instead, he checked it. He judged it. And he resolved his anger in healthy ways. He used it to shine a prophetic light on injustice in order to help facilitate reconciliation. Jesus is not saying don't be angry, but he is saying beware. Anger can lead to judgment if it's not resolved and expressed and worked out in healthy ways. In verse 22 and 26, Jesus tells us what to do when we get angry. Jesus says, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. He goes on and says, settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you're still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. Anger can lead to judgment if it's not resolved and expressed and worked out in healthy ways. I have a few thoughts on healthy ways to resolve anger. First, affirm the dignity of the person or the persons you're angry with. Remember, they are children of God, and that makes them your brothers and sisters. Do not demonize the people you're angry with. Do not use words to insult them or slander their name. Jesus said, don't call people names. Don't use the word raka, which means an insult, calling someone an imbecile. Don't call people fools, Jesus says, or you will be in danger of the fire of hell. He's simply saying, affirm the dignity of the people you're angry with. Second, be self-aware. Take your own personal inventory. You know, sometimes we use anger as a way to defend ourselves or to justify ourselves when we've treated others as less than human. Be self-aware. Are you angry because someone has exposed your motives by shining a light of truth on your heart? Be self-aware. Number 3, be honest with yourself. Own your part in the conflict. My 12-step friends would say, clean your side of the street. And finally, make amends quickly. Be willing to correct your behavior and broaden your perspective of the conflict by listening to the other person's side of the story. Make amends quickly. Be willing to forgive and make peace with your adversary. The hard sayings of Jesus are not fun to deal with, but they are helpful when we find ourselves living in hard times. The hard saying for this week: anger will eat us alive if we don't find a healthy way to resolve it. Anger will eat us alive if we don't find a healthy way to resolve it.